Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Shouting into the Void, and it's a new series.
Hooray!
We're officially at the start of series 3 of Doctor Who. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is the show that goes through all of New Who in order, and we've now done series 1 and 2. We've
Now
had
we're only 14 years behind.
Yay, we're slowly getting there. We'll catch up. We'll line up in maybe like 2-3 years. We'll get
Yeah.
there soon. We've gone through, well, we're on our second Doctor. We're now about to now about to welcome our third companion.
Yeah, that's for fan
Yeah,
fiction, I think.
yeah.
Entering our next companion.
I'd say we're on officially its second companion, I think, because I don't think at this point Donna counts as a companion.
No.
So this is our first new companion change. Up until this point, we effectively had Rose. And now we're welcoming Freema Agyeman into the TARDIS as Martha Jones, not Adiola, as she was in Army of Ghosts previous series. So yeah, this is a brand new series. Almost everything is the same except for Martha. The TARDIS is the same. I suppose the Doctor has a new suit. That's the only change he has. And it's slightly better lighting.
Yeah.
It's much brighter now. But yes, the first episode is Smith and Jones, which sees us introduced to Martha and her family. A
Her
change.
wonderful family.
Yep. I'm sure we'll get to know them as the series goes on. There's a number of different family members. Apparently, they're going to be celebrating a 21st birthday party. If that's true, I don't really know. I think they just plucked a number out of the air and went, "Yeah, that's fine." And yeah, it sees Martha, our student doctor, at her place of work or place of education, I guess. And that hospital gets taken to the moon, which obviously isn't really what you want when you're trying to pass a degree. But yeah, it's been taken to the moon. Some aliens are coming to find another alien, and we don't know why. It's up to the Doctor, who has also checked himself into this hospital for some reason, alongside the alien who has checked herself into this hospital for some reason, to figure out what's going on. So, what did you think of the episode?
I really, really loved it. It's, I think, of like the series premieres we've covered so far, I think this is my favorite one.
Yeah, definitely.
Not hard to beat New Earth, I would say. But I think I even prefer this to Rose. I thought it was a really good introduction to a new companion. I don't want to just list all the things I liked about it because we're about to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it was solidly entertaining. I think the time flew by. And yeah, just a very well put together, for the most part, introduction for series 3. And yes, all good fun with the Rhino boys.
Yeah, obviously this sees the introduction of the Judoon, which I'm sure we'll come on to. And yeah, I think for me, I thought that this had a lot more humor in it than previous series episodes, really. Obviously, the Christmas special had a fair bit in it because of Catherine Tate. I thought this one was a lot more lighthearted than I think series 1 and 2 were.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of moves with how the Doctor's, because now he's like comfortable in his body, he's getting more of a feel for being quirky. And there are certain moments in this where he really plays into it. And I also think that might be the impact of Donna in the previous episode, showing him that he can have fun while he's doing all this kind of stuff and make jokes and make quips. I think that's had the impact, which I hadn't really noticed before. But yeah, it was a good introduction to the new companion, a good jumping on point, I think, for most people if they wanted to start watching it, if they just joined, because there's very little reference to previous episodes in this, bar one mention of Rose, I think, towards the end. So yeah, I think it's a good jumping on point for people that missed series 1 and 2. And well, I guess, when this came out, it was probably quite difficult to go back and rewatch it. DVDs were obviously quite expensive. They probably would have been around 15-ish quid, I guess. Maybe, well, for a series, probably around 25. So it would have been quite expensive to go back and watch it. There wasn't BBC iPlayer or Netflix in 2007, I don't think. So yeah, it's a good jumping on point if somebody was like, hey, I want to watch some Doctor Who, and you start it. But as always, we discuss our positives, which is usually 3, and we discuss our negatives, which are most of the time 3. But as I said, usually most of the time means most of the time they're also not.
It's true.
So what is your first positive for the episode?
My first one is Martha herself.
Mhm.
I love Freema Agyeman in the role. I think she's great. You can definitely tell that it was written with her in mind, because I think she just seamlessly kind of inhabits that character. I think it's a great introduction to her. She makes a really great first impression. I like kind of different thing they did with her in terms of her training to be a doctor, and considering the context of the show and who she's going to hang out with. I think that's quite fun. I like her kind of going along with things, and like still going along with the doctor, even when she doesn't really believe it. She's like, you're not an alien, I don't buy that. But she's still like doing what he wants her to, and she's still like taking the initiative on things. She's like, I'll go and find Mr. Stoker to work this out. And she was very willing to die at the end to like bring the doctor back, because he's the only one who could fix the MRI thing, if anyone could. So yeah, I really enjoyed her presence. Maybe it is just because there's been a lot of Rose, and it has been, every week we've kind of had to put up with Rose. We would have had gaps in between series 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and stuff like that. So it is kind of just exciting to be talking about a new companion. I guess that also helps. But I do think Martha's a very underrated companion, and I think she has a really great start here before we get too into the whole I'm in love with the Doctor stuff a bit later on.
Yeah, that's fair. Martha is also my first point as well. Martha and Freema, obviously, who I think does really bring the role to life. I'm glad she was given a second chance on the show that wasn't just a mindless Cyberman drone.
Yeah.
She's great in the role. I like the introduction to her and her family. Like we literally get an easy sense that she's sort of the center of the family. I think she's keeping everyone together in the very quick 5-minute montage we get right at the start. And it's a new dynamic, I think, for the Doctor as well, because this is effectively someone that's probably more on par with him in terms of intelligence levels, because she is training to be a professional doctor. So she will have some smarts, not just street smarts. She will be able to help out in other situations, which she does here. Obviously, she knows what to look for. She often helps point the Doctor in the right direction and gives useful instructions and advice. And effectively saves the day with the quick thinking of hey, hang on a minute, if she sucked the blood of the Doctor, that means she's now going to be an alien again. You should scan her.
And remembering he has 2 hearts, but she's trying to give him CPR and stuff.
And then even that, the fact that she has the sort of bravery to stand up to the Judoon when she needs to stall for time to help the Doctor go and stop the real threat, I think is also a pretty good indication of what kind of companion she's going to be. Although I think maybe we kind of lose that towards the end of the episode, where it becomes more about the, hey, this is a hot boy that I fancy, I'm going to chase him.
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing.
tried to kiss me.
Yeah. I think that's the only criticism. That's the only criticism I have. I think is that last interaction in the TARDIS before they leave. I think is the only thing that I'm not a fan of. Just because it feels a bit forced and cringy. But it's fine. I mean, not everything's perfect, literally. And I'm excited to see her throughout the series, and hopefully Rose doesn't get in the way too much. But we'll see. So what's your next positive?
The Judoon.
Yes.
Rhino boys. They're a really great concept. I like the idea of like outer space police force. It makes a lot of sense that there would be something like that. I like the tradition, right, that they start with New Earth, that we need like a familiar animal on Earth that can just be made into an alien. And I think the design still holds up. Well, clearly it does still hold up, because they're literally in the last series that aired. And I think they clearly had confidence in that design as well, because a lot of close-ups of the animatronic mask, which was really cool, and I still think looks great. The idea of them having to assimilate a language is a nice contrast to who they're hunting, assimilating blood, so they're like taking different things there. I like that kind of contrast. They present a unique challenge because they're not necessarily the villains of the episode. That's very much Florence. But they also have a real firm presence. There's a bit of a threat to them. They do pose some challenges because they're a bit thick and dumb. A
little bit.
Sometimes careless.
Yeah.
But justice is swift, I suppose. And it's a bit of world building, I guess, into like how intergalactic law can work in the Doctor Who universe. So just themselves, I think, is a really cool design. And the presence they hold over the episode is kind of iconic, really, because we see them quite a few times after this. But yeah, they are great, a really great, unique monster. Are they a monster? I don't know. Not in my heart.
Yeah, because they're a monster, not a villain, is what they will be in the book when they.
I suppose that's true. Yeah, they're a good foe to face. But yeah, Rhino Boys are the best.
I think the Judoon are on my list, and the Plasmavore was just outside, so I'm going to bundle the two together and put villains as my next point, because I do think that obviously you've got the Judoon, which are these weird space aliens that provide the sci-fi for the show, really, and then you've got this old lady who's not really threatening, yet she is probably the biggest threat to the Earth. Not that it's a good contrast between the two. Like, it flips your expectations in the, hey, you think the big Rhino boys with the guns are the scary ones, they're going to kill you. No, it's going to be the little old lady with the straw that's about to destroy everything. Admittedly, the Judoon will probably leave you on the moon and starve you of oxygen, but hey, at least they won't fry you, unless you hit them over the head with a vase.
And they would leave you on the moon to get fried.
Yeah, that's
because they didn't want to unplug one red plug.
No. So the Judoon are obviously great. There's not too much I can add to them. It's just another example of when Doctor Who does prosthetics and practical effects, it really works, rather than the CGI, which we might come on to later. And then the Plasmavore, just the concept of just a straw. It's that whole thing that Russell does where it takes a household item or an everyday thing and makes it into that could be quite scary. And no doubt after this episode aired, a load of kids would have taken their straws and pretend to have been a Plasmavore
and stabbed their friends at school.
Yeah, basically. But
it can pierce the skin. It's fun.
Yeah, so it's really good. I really like the idea and the contrast. I've got some concerns as to why would the alien check itself into the hospital? My headcanon is just that it's easy access to blood, maybe.
She says it's a perfect hiding spot with access to equipment, but I'm kind of like, how long do you think they're going to let you stay in the hospital?
Yeah.
Is an old lady.
That's it, yeah. And surely her blood must change if they're whatever. There's a couple of issues there, along with why is the Doctor in the hospital? How did nobody realize he was an alien? He can't change his biology.
Definitely not.
But Plasmavore is not the most iconic villain, I will admit. It's not the one you think of, but compared to the one-off villains we had last series, The Wire, to some extent the Beast, the Absorbaloff, this is definitely this is definitely an upgrade, and we do get a proper backstory to her as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of this. I feel the same, I think, about her as I do the Rachnos. I think, it's not like the best villain in the world, but I think the actress is clearly having fun, and that makes it fun.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially towards the end, she gets just more and more over the top. Yeah. So it's
hi Martha. Hi.
Oh, that's the true villain of the piece. We'll come on to that, lady. But yes, the Plasmavore and the Judoon are definitely in my positives. So what is your third?
I've gone for the setting. I love the concept of the hospital on the moon. Obviously, you can't just go about on the moon very much, because the concept is they're trapped in this air bubble that's running out and stuff. It's very claustrophobic. But I still think just having a building taken like the imagery of the rain going upwards, the setup with that, and then just the idea of like, oh, there's a hospital on the moon. You know, electricity nonsense aside, I think just the visual of that's really cool. I think it creates a good kind of base under siege concept in a different kind of way, because they've been forced into this situation. It's not just a base that's built on the moon. Luckily, the moon didn't hatch during this episode, so that would have really solved everyone's problems. But we'll come on to that in about a year. And yeah, I think like as a setting for the Judoon arriving with all their ships and the fact that their ships move like sideways in that way, I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was really kind of epic scale for that arrival with them. And yeah, everything with that, I just think it's a really claustrophobic, intense setting for an episode. Just so many unique elements that the episode has going for it, and it's very different, especially because so much of New Who, for budget reasons, is just Earthbound anyway.
Yeah.
In a way, it technically still can be, but they've pushed it a bit by taking it to the moon. I think that's just something a bit different. Particularly when it's been like episode 1, Earth, episode 1, New Earth, so basically Earth, moon. And then episode 3, Earth for the first 10 minutes and the last 5 minutes, then moon. I like that they kind of changed it up. It just makes it really separates it, I think, as like a premiere episode. And it's kind of like, we're going to do some old shit this series. So I really like the setting of the moon.
Again, it's another thing where Russell can be like, hey, here's a hospital. If ever you're a kid in hospital, you can just think, yeah, I could get
you will run out of air.
Hey, I could go to the moon in this. You know, it grounds it in the way that, same as it did last week with the motorway sequence, you know, that a kid could be like, hey, this could happen to me. Which is good, which is what I like to see, is that that's kind of what the show is. It's supposed to inspire the imagination of children and things, because it is a family show. It is not aimed at older generations.
What? No, that's not right.
But
next you'll be telling me there's going to be politics in my Doctor Who.
Politics in my Doctor Who? Unbelievable. But yes, I do agree that it is an interesting setting, and it's a surprise they hadn't gone to the moon before, to be fair. Sadly, I wish they didn't go back to the moon, but what can you do?
Certainly first for the new series anyway.
Yes. Yeah, my sort of last one, unsurprisingly perhaps, is David Tennant again.
What? No.
Hey, to be fair, in series 2, I don't think
drinking game.
He didn't.
I mean,
stand
to be
out
fair,
in series 2.
When we get to the Matt Smith era, that's going to be me. So it's fine.
Yeah. It's fair enough. And I think credit, especially in this one, because he's so good at playing dumb in this role as the Doctor, or the Doctor's so good at playing dumb.
I love that him playing dumb shows how clever he is.
Yeah.
It's great.
Especially because like the first bit where he's talking about flying the kite with Isaac Newton and all that kind of stuff. It's like he's playing like crazy so that people don't suspect him of anything.
Yeah.
And then he does it again later in the episode where he's playing up being a normal human to sort of convince the Plasmavore that he's of no threat and she can tell him her plan without him, you know, being rumbled, which will come into play again later in the series.
In 4 episodes time, he does get electrocuted.
Yay! But yeah, I think that he does an excellent job in this, as both as the Doctor in the heroic sense and as the Doctor playing dumb. Yeah. Again, it comes back. Some of the bits come back to that How I Met Your Mother episode where it's like the cute crazy scale or whatever it is. Where if the person's attractive, what they do isn't creepy, but if they're not attractive, then it's very creepy.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's a number of things in this where I'm like, it's a little bit creepy. If that was Peter Capaldi, a little bit creepy.
Like when she's like feeling like his heartbeat and stuff, he just needs to go, and no one will ever believe you.
Yeah, and it's creepy. And then when he like stalks her at the end to go to a party, and he's just in the alleyway, I'm like, that's also
I do
creepy.
feel like this episode has a very different energy, I think, to the 10th Doctor, because a lot of people complain like, oh, Capaldi's Doctor's different every season. He's a different character. It's called character development, but also Sylvester McCoy every season that he's in, he's a completely different character. I feel like series 310 is very different to series 210 and series 410. I feel like series 511 is very different to series 611, which is very different to series 7B11. You know, I feel like it's just character development, not people moaning.
Well, that's what I said. You know, there's a lot of humor in this episode, and a lot of it comes from the Doctor, which again I think is what he picked up from Donna in the previous episode. He's now carrying that with him, and then obviously when we get into series 4 and they meet again, you know, he's obviously had his childhood friend come back to him and then be killed, and he's lost another one, so he's gonna be different because he's had those other. He has things happen to him. He's not the same person he was on Christmas Invasion.
And even when he's like being John Smith in this, when the plasma ball's like, "Oh, you're just laughing to hide your pain and sorrow," like she can still kind of see that.
And I mean, that's true.
That's his coping mechanism over, you know, what he's gone through.
Yeah, so, and it makes sense because it's either he makes jokes or he kills babies. So which one do you want?
Let's not do that.
Those are the only options. But yeah, definitely. You can see. I feel watching it so close together and paying attention, you can see the character development from the end of series 2 to the start of series 1. It admittedly it might be a bit jarring if you don't watch the Christmas special. But you should still watch it. It's still part. If you're going through it, you don't skip it because it's not Christmas, which isn't what we did. Because it's bloody August. Don't skip Christmas.
Don't skip Christmas.
But yeah, that's my main 3 positives. Have you got any others you want to tack on?
I did make a note that I really liked the scene with the Doctor and Martha on the balcony when they're just like introducing each other properly, and when they talk about what happened at Torchwood and like. I was cast in that and they didn't have time to rewrite it so my character lived, so here I am now. She's my cousin. So I like how they kind of at least tongue-in-cheek reference to it. They didn't need to do it, but it's cool that they did. And then the Doctor being like, yeah, I was there, and that's kind of what he says on the matter, because a big thing this season is he doesn't open up to Martha very easily about his past, and that's something they kind of work on, because she doesn't like officially become a companion until halfway through the series.
Like
when he's like,
oh, go on in it.
After episode 6.
It's after Lazarus, isn't it?
It's episode 6, yeah. It's like halfway through the series before she actually becomes a companion. So it's like a lot there. For better or worse, I get, maybe because she's only around for like one series as the main companion, that's not the best, but what can you do? But yeah, I just really enjoyed, I thought the chemistry between them was really cool there. It was just nice to see a different kind of Doctor companion interaction compared to what we had with, you know, the whole Dr. Rose thing. As great as that could be, it was cool to see something fresh as well. And yeah, I just remembered watching that scene being like, oh yeah, this is kind of a big standout moment for me so far. And that's about halfway through really. And you're just getting a sense of, you know, because he's just had the reveal of his new blue suit.
Quick change in the middle of the ward.
Yeah, I wish they cut, because he's like spying on them. He just does that. He doesn't even do it all the way around. So I just wanted to cut to someone on the opposite bed, just being like, "What the hell? Wait, guy's naked. No, stop it!" But yeah, I liked that whole sequence quite a bit with those two. It's nice that, ironically, you could ground the characters when they're on the moon.
Yes, no, that's fair enough. I think one of my additions, is the music again from Murray Gold. Obviously, it's a new series. And it's a new companion, so there's a load of new themes in on this one, all around Martha and different themes for her, which I think really work and have become obviously synonymous with series 3 and with Martha, and I think it does work. I quite like the music in this series, I think, more than I have done in 1 and 2, especially when we sort of move in towards the series finale. I think the music in those is excellent. But in this one, it is again showing that Murray Gold is a great composer, even though sometimes you don't notice he's there. When you do hear it, you're like, oh yeah, this is some pretty good music. Thank you.
Thank you, Murray Gold.
Thanks, Murray. I also appreciated that we didn't get an overdose of Rose in this episode as we did in the last
That
episode.
Was a pleasant surprise.
Because I was going into thinking, oh my God, we're going to have so many references. But it's only one right at the end, and it's quite fleeting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's at least 2 in the next episode that I can think of, but that's fine.
Yeah, unfortunately,
that's
it's
a
not
problem for
easier.
the transphobic code next week.
Yes. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yes.
And then I also appreciated, which I'm going to assume is some foreshadowing in this episode, the reference to a laser spanner. I quite like, probably hinting at the laser screwdriver. the Doctor pretending to be human, something else that comes up later. Obviously, Mr. Saxon is also referenced, something else which is even more important towards the end.
Yeah. And I do think Colin Baker had a laser spanner for a story as well. So it's probably like a fun tongue-in-cheek thing there.
So it could be either or it could be both, or either, or it could just be none.
We'll never know.
Which is
sure.
But yeah,
it was a reference to something.
Definitely was. So we'll scoot on over to the negatives, which I did have to struggle to think of some, to be fair, for this.
I had one that was like, I hated that. The rest are kind of, I think they're valid, but I could get over it.
That's fair. So what is your first one that you hate?
The slabs are crap.
Oh, not the slabs. No.
They're terrible.
I didn't even think of them. They were so like
they're truly exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. They are boring. It is like, right, we're all set to film our new series tomorrow. Oh shit, we don't have costumes for the slabs. Yeah. That's what it feels like. It is classic.
We spent all the money on the Judoon.
Right. Okay, it's fine. I'll take my motorcycle into town tomorrow. We'll get something. Wait, motorcycle. Just wear your motorcycle gear. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I just think it looks boring. It looks cheap. I hate the leather sound effects. This episode really has something about leather with the Judoon as well. Like there's some kind of fetish going on here, I'm sure. But they're just a bit crap and a bit. I just don't know if you really needed them, other than to just be like, radiation. See.
I guess they're there just to be something that can be killed, really. Like the cannon fodder is what their purpose is in this. Maybe that
they're there so they can have a minute-long chase sequence to put in the trailer. That really. And even then, the end of that is the slab slowing down as he gets to the door, so they can get in. I'm like, oh my God.
Then for some reason he can't break that door down, even though he broke the other door down. But okay,
it's just the most boring, cheap-looking design ever, and I hate them.
That's fair. I understand. I think if I'm speaking of a story perspective, they're probably the cheapest thing in terms of protection that the Plasmavore could get, which is probably why they're there. I like the idea that they're just like drone soldiers that are just for hire, kind of like the Judoon if we're going around that route. But they're the cheaper option. They're pretty shit.
I think when they also have the Judoon, who are basically wearing the same thing but better. I think that's when, like, if it was like a different color or just something a bit different, or the slabs were the goons in a different episode with different villains and stuff. I just think it's just a lot of boring black leather.
Especially when there's just two of them as well.
That really makes it kind of mesh together, and the fact that you were like, oh yeah, the slabs. I think kind of says everything about them, really. Fair.
Part of me thinks that maybe they didn't know if they could get away with showing that man's death with the vase, so they needed something that wasn't actually human to kill to show the Judoon killing. So maybe they're like,
say that.
Oh, well, there you go. So maybe they needed
those
the slabs.
Fun facts.
But yeah, I mean, they're not even on my list, but I think that's more because I didn't think of them than anything else. But I do.
I wish I didn't think of them too.
Yes, they're my honourable mention. But my first one is, although the CGI in this episode is good, the spaceship's landing is great, whatever, the green screen is not.
Right.
When it's on the balcony scene, when they're looking out, it's bad. It's when Martha's sister Tish is looking at the crater. That's bad. There's a number of like just shots where someone's looking at something that's over the shoulder that just doesn't look good. But I think that's more of a green screen problem of the time than anything else. Like even like you look at Star Wars at the time, and that had green screen problems, especially Phantom Menace. Although that was 6 years before, green screen's never been the best. It's always been a bit dodgy, and I think it does show the age with this one. And it's a shame because, like I said, the CGI looks good. It's just they then ruin it with the over the shoulder. They're on a green screen because they're not even like. It's almost like they've just been told to just stand there and look because they're not really moving or interacting or saying anything. It might as well just be a still picture, which I get is difficult because they are just looking at what is a green screen. But I don't think they're necessarily necessary.
Oh,
But yeah, it's just that's like my major thing is the green screen, just because of
Yeah.
how noticeable it was.
Mhm.
More than anything, which is it's fine. It is what it is. That's what it was. I can't bemoan it too much because it would be the same no matter what episode it was in. It could be the perfect episode ever, but there could still be issues.
Mhm.
But because everything else in the episode is pretty up there, it stands out more as being one of
Yeah.
the things that's not good. But yeah, that's fine. It's fine. I can deal with it. So, what is your next negative?
I've kind of just merged them all together. There's just like a few like script or plot things that I've just like, now, come on, please. I mean, one of them, it just happens a lot. I think it's just something RTD likes writing that I just get a bit like, oh, come on now. It's when it's like, look out the window, Martha. Martha, look out the window. The rain's going up. The rain's going up. Now we have a shot of the rain's going up. Then Martha's like, oh my God, the rain's going up. And then, oh, we're on the moon. We're on the moon. Oh my God, we're on the bloody moon. Then we have a shot of them on the moon. Oh, the extra guys. You know what? I had fun with those times. There were a lot of dramatic performances from the extras in this one. I must say, like,
so many
incredible scenes from the extras. There's a few things like that, right? Please. And when they just have to make the Judoon look a bit stupid for plot's sake, the fact that they're doing a thorough search of the plasma vault for the hospital, but don't find Mr. Stoker's body, even though when they're scanning Florence, she's actually walked out the room where the body is. And
they don't check the rooms; they just check the corridors, not the rooms.
That's very bad. And especially when there was a shot of the Judoon, one of the Judoon troopers walking into the next room, and they just somehow skip the one with the body in. So there's that. When they're like, oh no, this Florence, she's perfectly human near the end, and her lips are just covered in blood. And she's like, not me. I know that's probably like a comedy thing, but it doesn't make the Judoon look particularly good or threatening. The whole thing, they're just like willing to send the hospital back, but not just unplug the MRI thing. The capability of the MRI, it's not like she added any alien tech to it. Could it literally decimate half the world from that distance?
I highly doubt it.
I'm like, I don't know if that has the workings of it. And, the like electricity, how does that all work? Even with generators and shit, they would be completely destroyed. And then it would be like emergency power, not everything's absolutely fine. A few other things like that. Again, I can get over that because the slabs were the only thing I truly despised in this. But yeah, just a few little nitpicky plot scripty things there. Really.
Yeah, I mean, that's it for the electricity. My headcanon is that they have emergency generators that they used, but then again, you can't even say it's in the basement because they just take the surface level and then take it from there. So who knows? I'll allow it.
That makes it interesting to turn to my fun fact about deleted sequence.
Oh, lovely, of course.
That would have actually made the generator thing actually make sense, and I would have accepted it. But never mind.
Too late. It's too late.
It's too late.
Sort of sticking with issues with sort of the making of, I guess, is there are so many shots of the Judoon walking or marching, close-ups of their shoes, of their heads, walking through the doors, walking out the doors, walking across the moon, walking in, looking at the shoes. There's just so many. I'm like, all right, I get it. They're big boys with big shoes. I don't need to see them every time. And then even like with the slab chase, it's like, oh my God, we're running with the Dr. and Martha. Oh my God, we're running with the slab. Here's the slab's feet. Oh my God, we're running with. I was like, what? Why?
It's a leather thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So that kind of makes me think there's a bit of padding going on there with quite a lot of we need to fill a minute. Let's just use that minute full of other establishing shots of the Judoon and other things walking, and it's fine. But when you've seen it 10 times in the episode, you kind of like, I know what shoes they're wearing. I can probably tell you what size feet there are at this point. But again, it's one of them things where I'm like, it's fine. It doesn't ruin the episode really for me. So I can deal with it. It's just another one of those small moments that isn't just another making of issue. So what is your final negative?
It was just kind of a few weird editing or directing choices that kind of took me out of it a bit. Like the distracting amount of focus on leather, like what's going on with that. I can't remember exactly what cut it was, but it was when everyone was like screaming in the hospital. I was like, oh, that was a weird cut there. and then the doctor's talking. I think it's the scene where he's talking about the laser spanner screwdriver thing.
Mhm.
And it just randomly zooms in on Martha's face all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, that was weird.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it wasn't even like zoomed in enough to be like, oh, it's a comical zoom. It was just like, and I was like, that's strange. So that kind of, a few things like that took me out of it. But again, that was like 2 or 3 instances in a 43-minute episode.
Yeah.
That's not terrible. So,
No, yeah, that's fair. I understand. And I mean, we're being very nitpicky with these ones because that's the case of the episode. And I'd much rather be nitpicky of an episode than hate the episode. So
exactly, yeah.
So I'd much rather this every week than just have actual problems.
Looking at you, Sue, too.
Yeah. And then sort of going on to my third, which is just it's a real nitpick. Analiese.
you just know it, don't you?
Oh, she's the worst. I'm so glad she's only in this episode.
Hi, Martha. Hi.
Like, she is supposed to be the worst. She is clearly framed as the worst person in the family, in the relation. And that is shown in her one of 2 scenes. Her very first scene is just the high-pitched, annoying voice. Take me shopping, big boy. While still on the phone to Martha, it's like, oh, you're like the worst person. You can tell Martha's dad's going through a proper midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Because he's got the fast car as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she is there to emphasize the point. She's there to emphasize the rifts in the family and that kind of thing. And I'm so glad she doesn't come back. And again, if there was more wrong with this episode, Annalise could be in my positives for being like a one of those characters that's so bad they're good type things. But because there's not that much wrong with this that I found, she's in the worst because she's just the most annoying person ever in the show. Maybe only slightly better than Adam, I would say. And that's only because she's only in 2 scenes. If she was in an episode, it would be the worst.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, she is shown to be like the outsider to the family. In theory, she could represent what the Doctor could have been if they wanted to, that could have, because somebody coming into the family not liked by everyone, which they kind of have when they actually meet the Doctor, or at least the mum does. So I can appreciate the reasons why she's there, but that doesn't mean I have to appreciate her.
No.
So I don't.
And if they really would do that whole contrast with the Doctor and thing, like the Doctor and Annalise would have to like be in like the same proximity. And
well, they were, but only when she stormed off.
Yeah, just imagine Annalise in an Lazarus experiment. I think that genuinely might improve that episode.
Might die in that, to be fair.
Exactly, it just gets drained by the Lazarus creature, and then it's a 10 out of 10.
Maybe, but even the dad's not in that one, is he? He doesn't reappear until the series finale, I don't think.
And Reggie Yates is like, yeah, I'll be in series 3, but I want the bare minimum to do when I show up. I will not be in the finale.
No.
You will knock me unconscious and injure me in episode 6.
Reggie Yates is a case of, look, I've got 10 minutes to film. I'll come and do something, but you have to come to my house for most of the scenes. You have to come. Yeah. I'm on holiday this week, so you have to come and film me at the beach. Other than that, I can spare 5 minutes when I can visit you on set. I'm a busy Radio 1 DJ. I can't do acting, which you can do acting, but it's fine. That's my other sort of negative is he's not 21. Fuck off. No. Especially like I get you can have young families, but doesn't he have like a 2-year-old kid or something? Yeah. Like in the finale. And he just doesn't look 21. If you say 25, I'd believe 25. Say it's the 25th, then I guess you have to. They don't really say how old Martha is, I don't think. I think maybe they made that mistake with Rose making her 19. They've now just gone, student doctor.
Yeah.
You can guess what you want. I guess it seems like she's almost finished. So maybe she's supposed to be about 21, 22.
No idea.
So, and then that means is she supposed to be older than Reggie Yates? Is it her little brother? I don't know. It's another thing where I'm like, I don't really care. It's just something that is there. If you want to be a dick and nitpick it, then you can by all means say, hey, I don't like this because this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Did you have any other notes you wanted to add?
I do not think so.
Fair enough. So yeah, some of mine is obviously we know why the Doctor's in hospital because he says he saw whatever and he checked himself in. But then how does nobody check that he has 2 hearts, that his blood's wrong? You don't get admitted to a bed in a hospital by just walking in and saying,
no. He literally has notes. Like,
yeah.
Hmm.
So unless he faked them, I don't know. Unless he knows someone, who knows? That's fine. What else have we got? Oh yeah, the doctor said he has a brother or had a brother. So who was that? Is that even a thing? Are they ever going to explore that? No.
I mean, they were originally going to reveal the Doctor and the Master brothers in the classic series, but then Roger Delgado died. So
maybe that's foreshadowing then.
Maybe it's just part of his cover.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. Maybe. I doubt it though.
Everything must have meaning, of course.
Martha's flip phone is wow. That's an old flip phone.
0 out of 10.
Also, when the doctor and Martha and her friend are in the little break room, where's the doctor walking to? Like Martha looks and he's walking past the door and looks
just
in,
snooping around, yeah,
and then walks off. I'm like, what? Sorry, where's he going?
Trying to convince her she's crazy.
I was like, what's going on? So that's fine. It's a bit strange. Yeah, the extras in when the hospital gets taken up are excellent. They're so over the top, grabbing each other, screaming, which is very extreme, but I do quite like it. I thought the doctor was slightly harsh when he was like, yeah, you can come with me, not you.
Yeah, that felt a bit like, oh, okay.
I was like, whoa. But I like the comedic effect, although it doesn't help that she then cries. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's
she'll slow us down. She's useless.
But then she shows that she's actually not when she's helping the patients with the oxygen later on, which I guess is fine.
Her job.
yeah, basically doing the job.
She's doing the job she's trained for, thank God.
I like the ship design of the Judoon. I've always liked that. It's just such a unique, strange design. That it's just literally like a tower block that can fly. What else have we got? Who knew a straw could be scary, which I think is fair enough. The shop joke returns with the hospital having a little shop, which I quite like. It's a nice little link to the previous series, which luckily didn't then say, oh, I had a friend who didn't like shops in hospitals. You know, it could have been if this was the Runaway Bride. The guy who hit the Judoon with the vase deserved to die. Why?
Wow.
But why would you do that?
The poor terrified man.
But why would you do
acting
it?
Out of impulse.
You see them coming. Why are you going to think, oh my God, they're not killing anyone, I better hit them? But fine, whatever. David's hair is sort of all over the place throughout this episode, where he often ruffles it and it just goes
all over
the place. I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, what's that? Oh, I thought it said human then. I was like, what? Doctor is definitely more humorous. It does make you can hate this. I put slab is a unique idea. It's a unique idea.
It's certainly unique.
Not necessarily a good one.
Unique's one word for it.
Oh, and I also thought that a comparison to Martha and Rose is that when they find Mr. Soka, Martha takes the time to like close his eyes and give him like a proper
especially because he was a dick to her.
Yeah, exactly.
And she still gives him that respect.
Yeah, and Rose would be like, "Fuck off," and just left.
She'd step on his face.
How do you feel about the kiss?
It's very forced, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
He could have just given her a high five or something.
Yeah.
But it is there, so she starts like getting feelings, isn't it? I'd rather they just not do that plot line for Martha. So I'd rather they didn't do it. I can get over it, I suppose, but I would rather it wasn't a thing.
Like, it's that thing again, whereas if he wasn't an attractive man, it would be creepy for him to do that. But because he's an attractive man, because he's David Tennant, everyone's like, oh, that's so handsome. Oh, I wish that was me type thing. But if it was any other person forcing themselves
Imagine like William Hartnell being like, this means nothing.
Any of the classic Doctors, pretty much, to be fair. You would
basically, yeah, that's true.
Again, Peter Capaldi coming at you with that. Oh. Yeah, I put you played yourself when the plasma ball drinks the Doctor's blood.
Yeah.
Congratulate yourself.
You stupid bitch.
How were you to know? And then why didn't the doctor regenerate if he died? Because he's dead for a good half an hour, surely. Like at least 15 minutes. He must be for everything to kick off, and yet he doesn't regenerate, which I think is a bit. I guess I don't know how long,
because he doesn't quit for another couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Could you imagine that the first episode?
Imagine the twist.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm like, thank God he picked the right plug. Classic blue line or red line. Which one do I cut?
Yeah,
Luckily,
just one plug just stops all of that as well.
Yeah. Also, there was no need to carry Martha to the window. I know it's a cool shot, but you don't need to take her to the window. Conserve your oxygen.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought that.
There's no, it's not like she's gonna die if you leave her in that room. You don't need to, and she probably doesn't wake up until they've landed on Earth anyway, so she's not gonna see the moon. But fine. I've also put Analiese as the worst person.
It's true.
Yeah, and that pretty much. My last one is only one mention of Rose with a couple of exclamation points. Woohoo! So, what are your fun facts for this fun episode?
Let's get some fun facts in this shiz, right? So, Swansea's Singleton Hospital was mostly used for location filming, but the scene where the Judoon enter for the first time was actually filmed in a nearby library at Swansea University.
Yep.
And the university still commemorates this every Freshers Week with a Doctor Who themed display.
I love it.
To be fair, I'd milk that too for all its goddamn worth.
I mean, you can definitely tell that's not a hospital entrance, because what hospital has like detectors as you walk in? Like,
yeah,
they like shot. I get it for a library because they could be expensive books if they're in there that you can't take out. But a hospital, I don't believe that. But yeah, I do get what you mean.
I do believe it.
I refuse.
People who bought the book Doctor Who: The Inside Story would have seen concept art for the burnt out sonic screwdriver 5 months before the episode's broadcast.
No,
as it was in that book. So you'd got a bit of a hint there.
You wouldn't have known about it though until you saw it.
You'd been like, this is quite a well-known one. The Judoon platoon upon the moon line was written as a joke for David Tennant, whose natural Scottish accent makes it difficult to pronounce that line in an English one.
Oh,
so it was all just vindictive against poor David Tennant when they wrote that line. We were talking a bit about this when we were messaging yesterday. Mr. Stoker was originally intended by Rusty Davies to be a reference to Mr. Stoker from the 1989 TV series Children's Ward. But the production crew believed it was a reference to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yep.
So the sign on Stoker's office door said "B. Stoker." So it was yes and no as a reference to Dracula.
Because I was like,
Davies wanted it to
I was
be,
like, surely this is a Dracula reference.
It genuinely wasn't supposed to be, but that's what the production crew.
I refuse to believe that Russell didn't think Stoker and Blood. I cannot believe he didn't put those two together when writing it. Surely
it's because he worked on the Children's Ward show, so I imagine that was just what was in his head.
Maybe I don't know.
But it's quite funny that that's not like the main reference he was going for.
Yeah. But I just maybe I held Russell in too high a regard that he wouldn't have got his own reference, but maybe he just didn't.
It's the best of us. This is the first episode since Rose with no pre-credit sequence.
Nice cold open, no cold open, which is a shame, but it's fine.
Bring them back, Series 13. Though this is the first on-screen appearance of Martha, the character actually made her debut a month earlier in the novel Made of Steel by Terence Dix, when that was published.
That's a bit strange that they put that out before the series.
So I wonder how Martha does come across in that. I'd have to reread it. I wonder if it feels true to her.
I think I've read that. I think I read it.
I read it when it came out.
I think I read it pretty recently. Because the Sidemen, I think, set up like a conversion base in like the Millennium Dome.
Well, you didn't message me and say this doesn't feel very martyry, so I imagine they must have.
I didn't. It's pretty obvious. I didn't think, hey, this was written before Martha. I felt fine, but it's also quite hard to sort of convey a companion in a book. I think it's easy with Donna because Donna's got such an obvious style, whereas it's quite hard to get Martha and Rose, I think.
Yeah, that's true. This is probably my favorite fun fact for this episode. But there's a scene where the Doctor locks the door with the door lock. This was the last thing that was shot for the episode, and it wasn't David Tennant's hand, because the scene they shot had the Doctor using the Sonic to lock the door. Then in post-production, they realized, oh shit, the Sonic's destroyed by this point. So they had to very, very hastily reshoot that scene and cut it into the episode, which is absolutely hilarious. Can you imagine, like, the brave person who spoke up in the editing room? You know, wait a minute.
Russell?
You know the bit where he has to...
Can we have another £100, please? We need to go back to the hospital.
I'm sorry. So that's absolutely hilarious, and I love that. The name Royal Hope Hospital was reused in the pilot episode of Law and Order UK, which starred Freema Agyeman and was written by Chris Chibnall. It's all connected.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah, it's true. For numerous drafts of the script, a key scene had the Doctor and the Plasmavore racing to the basement of the hospital where the TARDIS was hidden. But Russ T Davies eventually decided he couldn't make the sequence work and just had the TARDIS get left behind on Earth.
Fair enough. What would that be? Someone takes the lift, someone takes the stairs. They both take the stairs. There's two sets of stairs, either end of the hospital.
I have no idea.
That's why he couldn't make it work, because it doesn't make sense, Russell.
Well, at least they got rid of it in the end. A set piece where the Doctor and Martha escaped from the Judoon by scaling outside in a window cleaner's cradle was cut for time. But the sequence and the prop that they made for that sequence was reused in Partners in Crime. So they did get their money's worth out of it in the end. Just a whole year later. The original effect for the Judoon weapons had victims' skin boiling away. It was deemed too scary, so they had to change it.
Yeah, this is much better. What they ended with is much better. Sure.
They're just burning alive is fine.
Yep.
Martha's "We're on the Bloody Moon" is the first use of profanity in Doctor Who history. So
profanity in my Doctor Who.
Congratulations, Martha. And then last but not least, this is another famous one, I think, but the Doctor mouthing along to Martha's "It's bigger on the inside" was improvised by David Tennant and left in because it's fantastic.
It's very good. I do like that. It's definitely one of the highlights. Makes me laugh every time. Yeah. Very good fun facts. That leaves one last thing. What are you rating Series 1, Series 3, Episode 1?
Wait a minute.
Episode 1 of Series 3.
I will go for an 8, I think. I really enjoyed it.
Interesting. I was torn. I wasn't too sure. I'm going for a 7.5.
Okay.
For mine. I don't know where that ranks with the previous series openers because I don't keep track really, and because
Let's find out.
I don't really like comparing them because no doubt I'll be proved an idiot where I wrote New Earth as like a 9. Let's see if I got it down.
Yeah, I did notice you contradicted yourself in the Runaway Bride before. But it's fine.
There we go. Actually, looking at this
in the moment, it's
that's
fine,
it. I compare them individually, not against each other.
So that's the 7.5.
I have written it down. Mine, I gave New Earth a 6, so stands that it's better. I don't know what I gave Rose.
Yeah, you gave Rose an 8.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean,
kind of lining up.
I mean, Rose, I think gets a higher mark because it's the beginning more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is definitely, and it's just one of them things where if you don't watch them next to each other, you're not gonna exactly. Compare.
It's the process.
And but yeah, this is definitely a strong series opener. It definitely makes me more excited for what's to come. Mm-hmm. And what is to come is episode 2, The Shakespeare Code. Which we got a lovely little next time for at the end of this episode. What are your memories?
No. I believe they spent valuable seconds of the next time trailer putting William Shakespeare going, no me.
Oh, God. So what are your memories of this one?
I remember always really liking it. I was always very excited for it because when Doctor Who came back, I always wanted a William Shakespeare episode. So when we found out what this was going to be, I was like, I remember being absolutely traumatized by the opening scene where they tear that guy apart.
Yeah,
I found that really creepy.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I never looked at the witches the same way. But yeah, I think it's a good one. Shame about the writer, but I think it is a fun romp of an episode.
Yeah.
I like the dynamic that they bring in with Shakespeare, I think. And I think the Carrie Knights are quite fun. A fitting villain for like a Shakespeare themed episode.
Yeah.
I think it does a really good job with like the concept of like where it's set and who's in it and stuff. And of course it sets up Queen Elizabeth hating the Doctor, which gets paid off
just about 10 years later.
6-7 years later or something.
Something well, 6 years in it,
yeah.
13.
So yeah, I remember really liking it. So I'm excited to see how I feel about it, like especially compared to Smith and Jones, which I really, really enjoyed. So we shall see.
Looking at the next time trailer, I'm very concerned for the CGI. I don't think this is going to have held up based on the Carrie Knight that we see, the real Carrie Knight that we see. And when she's floating outside the window. So we'll see how it goes. It could be that they fine tune it between the next time and the episode. Who knows how it worked? But yeah, I remember liking it. I remember liking Shakespeare, I think, a lot. He seems very much like the Han Solo type figure, quite the scoundrel, which I think is what he's portrayed as, which isn't really the cliche.
I've just remembered.
Oh no!
I've just remembered the writer and how they defeat the Carrie Knights.
Yep. Yeah. So that's
aged like milk. That's a negative.
So there are some concerns. But yeah, I think he's definitely. Shakespeare is made to be attractive in this, which I think people weren't sure about.
He's nommy.
Yeah, because he's typically portrayed as a sort of balding white man that wasn't, very spectacular in himself. Yeah. But naturally, this is a sci-fi show where we can play around a little bit, kind of like Dickens in series 1, where I wouldn't say he's an attractive man, but he's definitely played up more as the author rather than the work.
Yeah. I think like doing this whole thing has really opened my eyes to how much, as I've gotten older, how much I love the historical ones. I used to be like, oh, okay, fine. But when we got to like the Jodie era, and I'm like, oh, they're so good at the historicals. And I'm just looking back, I'm like, the historicals, I just like them now.
I think it's because they don't do historicals very often, or at least like proper historicals with historical figures. They don't do them very often, but they do a lot of future episodes, and therefore the sort of ratio of good to bad with historicals and future, it's more bad in the future than it is in historicals.
Like William Hartnell was basically just historicals. That's all they did. And they weren't even like historicals with like alien-y twists and stuff. It was just historicals.
Just, meeting people. And then
so it's kind of interesting to see how that's changed as the show's gone on.
Yeah, especially because I think we get quite a few historicals, at least one-ish every series in Russell T Davies. Moffat's a bit more, he'll have historical characters but not necessarily in a historical episode. Thinking Winston Churchill, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is obviously one where they take two historical characters and put them in the future.
I suppose the pirate episode is technically one, because those pirates did actually exist and actually disappeared.
So there are bits, but yeah, it's definitely a historical that I remember liking. And I was in the thought, I was like, it's all set in Shakespeare times. I want to see space. Show me space. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I am looking forward to it. And we should be back next week. Again, I'll add a little disclaimer. If they announce Jodie Whittaker's replacement within the next week, it will be that video. I don't think they're going to do that, but if they do, you never know. We might have that.
I am away this weekend, and I do come back on Monday, but I don't know what time.
We can figure it out. If it's not Tuesday, it'll be Wednesday.
It'll be during next week for sure. It's not like we're going to take a week off, I don't think. So it's fine.
No. We'll figure something out. If it's not Tuesday, it'll be Wednesday. I could imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this week. We'll see you next week for the Shakespeare Code. Bye.
Bye.